Picture a door that swings both ways. For decades, the United States has treated that door as if it only swings in one direction. American goods flowing south, American demands flowing south, American pressure flowing south. This morning at 7 a.m. Central Time, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum grabbed that door and slammed it shut from the other side. And the sound you are hearing right now, the sound of supply chains snapping, factory floors going silent, and grocery store shelves about to go empty, that is the sound of the United States discovering that it needed that door open far more than Mexico did. Here is what happened. At a nationally televised address from the Palacio Nacional in Mexico City, President Sheinbaum announced that Mexico is imposing an immediate export embargo on 27 categories of goods shipped to the United States. Not tariffs, not restrictions, a complete halt. She called it the Sovereign Commerce Protocol, and she gave the United States 21 days to remove all tariffs on Mexican goods, release $6.2 billion in frozen remittance transfers, and formally apologize for what she described as 3 months of economic terrorism against the Mexican people. If you think this is about politics, you are not paying attention. This is about the fact that 48% of all fresh vegetables consumed in the United States in winter come from Mexico. This is about the fact that 37% of all auto parts used in American car factories are manufactured in Mexico. This is about the fact that the entire American agricultural, automotive, and manufacturing supply chain runs through a country that the United States just spent 3 months treating like an enemy, and Mexico just turned off the spigot. In this breakdown, I am going to walk you through the 27 categories of goods that Mexico has embargoed and why each one will cause specific measurable pain in American households within days. I am going to show you the receipts that prove Mexico spent weeks preparing for this moment while Washington was focused entirely on Canada. I am going to reveal the secret alliance that Mexico has built with 3 countries that guarantees it can survive this embargo longer than the United States can. I am going to explain the White House reaction and why one senior official described this as the worst strategic surprise since 9/11. And I am going to give you 3 scenarios for what American life looks like if this embargo is still in place in 30 days. Subscribe right now, leave a comment, share this video, because what I am about to show you will affect the price you pay for food, the car you drive, and the job you go to work at starting this week. Let me walk you through Sheinbaum's address because it was designed to accomplish something no Mexican president has ever attempted. It was designed to make the United States feel dependent. Sheinbaum opened by speaking directly to the Mexican people. She said, "For 3 months, the government of the United States has waged economic war against Mexico. They have imposed tariffs that violate our trade agreements. They have frozen billions of dollars in remittances that Mexican families depend on. They have threatened our sovereignty. They have insulted our dignity. They have treated Mexico not as a partner, but as a possession." She paused. Then she said something that changed everything. They forgot that possessions do not fight back. Partners do. Sheinbaum then outlined the Sovereign Commerce Protocol. She said, effective immediately, Mexico is suspending all exports in the following 27 categories to the United States until our 3 requirements are met. She then read the list, and as she read it, you could hear the economic earthquake building. Category 1, fresh produce, all tomatoes, avocados, peppers, cucumbers, berries, and leafy greens. Mexico supplies 69% of America's imported tomatoes, 80% of its avocados, and 51% of its imported berries. Those shipments stop today. Category 2, automotive components. All engines, transmissions, wiring harnesses, brake systems, and interior assemblies manufactured in Mexico for U.S. automakers. Ford, General Motors, Stellantis, and Toyota all depend on Mexican manufactured components for between 30% and 55% of their vehicle assembly. Category 3, medical devices. Mexico is the largest exporter of medical devices to the United States, including surgical instruments, catheters, pacemaker components, and diagnostic equipment. Those exports stop today. Category 4, aerospace components. Fuselage sections, landing gear assemblies, and avionics housings manufactured in Mexico for Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and Raytheon. Those stop today. Category 5, beer and spirits. Mexico exports $5.2 billion in beer to the United States annually. Modelo, Corona, Dos Equis, Pacifico. Those shipments stopped today. She continued through all 27 categories: electronics assembly, flat glass, cement, copper wire, refrigeration units, transformers, plastic injection molds, textiles. By the time she finished, she had described an embargo covering $218 billion in annual exports to the United States. That is not a symbolic gesture. That is the removal of $218 billion in goods that the American economy needs to function. Then Sheinbaum outlined Mexico's 3 requirements. She said, these are the conditions for resuming exports. Requirement 1, immediate and unconditional removal of all tariffs on Mexican goods. Every tariff, no exceptions, no transition periods, removed by midnight on the 21st day. Requirement 2, release of $6.2 billion in remittance transfers that the United States has frozen or delayed through regulatory obstruction. Those funds belong to Mexican families. They are not leverage. They are not bargaining chips. They are stolen wages, and they will be returned. Requirement 3, a formal public apology from the President of the United States, delivered on camera, acknowledging that the tariffs were imposed in violation of USMCA, that the remittance freezes were illegal, and that Mexico is a sovereign nation entitled to be treated with respect. Sheinbaum then said, I know that the 3rd requirement will be the most difficult for President Trump, but Mexico has endured 3 months of humiliation. A single moment of humility from the United States is not too much to ask. That line was calculated. It was designed to put Trump in a position where compliance requires the one thing he is psychologically incapable of providing: a public admission of wrongdoing. Now let me give you the receipts. Receipt number 1, the warehouse buildup. For the past 6 weeks, Mexico has been quietly stockpiling goods that it normally exports to the United States. Warehouses in Monterrey, Guadalajara, and Ciudad Juarez have been filled with automotive components, fresh produce in cold storage, and medical devices. Satellite imagery analyzed by trade intelligence firms shows a 340% increase in warehouse utilization at major Mexican logistics hubs since January. Mexico was not preparing to export. Mexico was preparing to stop exporting. And it was building the inventory buffer to ensure that when the embargo began, Mexican factories would not face immediate layoffs because they would have weeks of production already stored and ready to redirect to other buyers. Receipt number 2, the alternative buyer agreements. According to trade documents obtained by multiple international outlets, Mexico has signed provisional export agreements with the European Union, Japan, South Korea, and Brazil, covering $94 billion in goods currently exported to the United States. These agreements were negotiated in secret over the past 2 months. They include expedited customs processing, reduced tariffs, and guaranteed minimum purchase volumes. Mexico is not cutting off exports to the United States and hoping for the best. Mexico is cutting off exports to the United States because it has already found other customers. Receipt number 3, the Chinese credit line. This is the one that should terrify Washington. According to financial sources, the People's Bank of China has extended a $50 billion currency swap line to the Bank of Mexico. This credit line allows Mexico to stabilize its currency during the embargo period and to finance imports that it would normally pay for with dollars earned from U.S. exports. China is bankrolling Mexico's economic war against the United States. China is providing the financial cushion that allows Mexico to sustain the embargo long enough to force American capitulation. And the terms of the swap line reportedly include provisions for increased Chinese investment in Mexican manufacturing, Chinese access to Mexican lithium deposits, and the establishment of a Chinese naval logistics facility at the port of Manzanillo. While Trump was tweeting about tariffs, China was writing checks. And those checks just bought China a strategic foothold 90 miles from the American border. Receipt number 4, the grocery store timeline. Industry analysts have calculated how quickly the embargo will affect American consumers. Fresh produce will begin disappearing from store shelves within 72 hours. Avocado prices will triple within 1 week. Tomato prices will double within 10 days. By day 14, an estimated 30% of produce sections in American grocery stores will be empty or drastically reduced. Automotive production will begin shutting down within 5 days as Mexican-manufactured components run out. GM has announced it has a 7-day supply of wiring harnesses. Ford has a 9-day supply of transmissions. By day 14, an estimated 60% of North American vehicle production will be offline. Medical device shortages will begin affecting hospitals within 10 days. Surgical procedures requiring Mexican-manufactured instruments will be delayed or canceled. This is not theoretical. This is happening. Right now, the trucks that normally cross the border at Laredo carrying $1.2 billion in goods per day are sitting idle. The loading docks are empty. The supply chain is broken. Now let me show you the White House reaction because it reveals complete strategic paralysis. At 8:00 a.m. Eastern, the National Economic Council was briefed. According to sources, advisors immediately recognized that the embargo would cause visible consumer impact within days, making it politically devastating in a way that tariffs and financial measures are not. Tariffs are abstract. Empty grocery shelves are not. At 9:30 a.m., Trump convened a meeting with trade advisors. According to sources, he asked 2 questions. First, can we force Mexico to resume exports? Advisors explained that the United States has no legal mechanism to compel a sovereign nation to export goods. The embargo is entirely within Mexico's rights under international law. Second, can we find alternative suppliers? Advisors explained that the scale of Mexico's exports to the United States cannot be replaced quickly. There is no other country that can supply the volume, variety, and proximity of goods that Mexico provides. Finding alternatives would take 18 to 36 months and would cost significantly more. At 11 a.m., the White House issued a statement. It said, Mexico's export embargo is an act of economic aggression that will harm Mexican workers more than American consumers. The United States has abundant domestic production capacity and diverse global supply chains. We will not be blackmailed. That statement is a lie, and the markets knew it immediately. The Dow dropped 1,160 points by noon. Automaker stocks collapsed. Ford fell 16%. General Motors fell 19%. Grocery chains fell between 8% and 12%. Agricultural commodity futures for domestically grown produce spiked as traders anticipated a demand surge for American-grown alternatives that do not exist in sufficient volume. At 1 p.m., the American Automotive Policy Council, representing Ford, GM, and Stellantis, issued a statement calling on the administration to immediately remove tariffs on Mexico and resolve the crisis. The statement said, every day this embargo continues costs the U.S. auto industry $780 million in lost production. Our members cannot sustain this. The tariffs must be removed now. At 3 p.m., the National Grocers Association issued a statement warning that grocery stores in the southern and western United States will begin experiencing significant produce shortages within 48 hours, and that prices for available produce will increase by 40% to 200% depending on the item. At 5 p.m., senators from Texas, Arizona, California, and New Mexico, all border states, held a joint press conference. They demanded that Trump remove the tariffs and meet Mexico's requirements immediately. The senator from Texas said, "My constituents cannot eat ideology. They need food on their tables, and they need it now." Here are 3 scenarios for what happens over the next 21 days. Scenario 1, the rapid capitulation. Trump removes tariffs within 72 hours as grocery shortages begin and automakers announce factory shutdowns. The remittances are released. The apology is the sticking point, but Trump issues a modified statement that Sheinbaum accepts as sufficient. The embargo is lifted by day 7. The crisis ends quickly, but the political damage is enormous. Trump has been forced to back down by Mexico in full public view, and the precedent that export embargoes work against the United States has been established permanently. Scenario 2, the standoff. Trump refuses to comply. Mexico maintains the embargo. By day 10, grocery store shelves in major American cities are visibly empty. Automakers announce indefinite production halts. Hospitals begin rationing medical supplies. Public anger boils over. Congressional pressure becomes overwhelming. By day 18, Congress passes emergency legislation overriding Trump's tariffs and authorizing the release of frozen remittances. Trump vetoes the legislation. Congress overrides the veto. The tariffs are removed by congressional action, not presidential decision. Trump is politically humiliated. The embargo is lifted on day 21. Scenario 3, the escalation. Trump retaliates against the embargo by freezing Mexican government assets in the United States, imposing sanctions on Mexican banks, and deploying additional military forces to the border. Mexico responds by expelling the U.S. ambassador, closing the border to all traffic, including humanitarian crossings, and formally requesting Chinese military advisors to assist with border security. The crisis becomes a military standoff. Global markets crash. Oil prices spike as uncertainty about North American stability spreads to energy markets. The situation becomes the most dangerous confrontation in the Western Hemisphere since the Cuban Missile Crisis. I am watching 3 things in the next 48 hours. First, grocery store inventory levels in border states. The speed at which shelves empty will determine the speed of political pressure on Trump. Second, automaker announcements. Every factory shutdown announced is another pressure point. Third, whether China makes any public statement supporting Mexico's position. If Beijing publicly backs the embargo, the crisis becomes a U.S.-China confrontation with Mexico as the battlefield. Mexico did not ask for this fight. The United States brought this fight to Mexico's door with tariffs, frozen remittances, and threats. And now Mexico has revealed the one truth that Washington never wanted to face. The United States does not feed itself. The United States does not build its own cars. The United States does not manufacture its own medical devices. Mexico does. And Mexico just stopped. 21 days. The clock is running. And every hour that passes, the shelves get emptier and the leverage shifts further south.